The WNBA has always been a league built on grit, talent, and unapologetic authenticity. By the summer of 2025, it was also the center of two names destined to draw attention: Reese and Kahleah Copper. No city was feeling that heat more than Chicago. Home to the 2021 WNBA champions, the Chicago Sky, the franchise was in a period of transition. Gone were some of the steady hands and veteran leaders from their title run. In their place came a bold mix of fresh talent and proven stars, each bringing their own energy, style, and expectations. Reese, a rookie forward fresh from LSU, had exploded into the national consciousness during the 2023 NCAA championship, when she helped deliver the Tigers their first-ever women's basketball title in a win over Caitlin Clark's Iowa Hawkeyes. Dubbed the Bayou Barbie, she wasn't just known for her dominant rebounding and relentless play, she was a cultural phenomenon. She embraced the spotlight, trash-talked with flair, and curated a social media presence that was as much a part of her identity as her jump hook. Kahleah Copper, in contrast, was a veteran who had built her reputation the slow, deliberate way. Drafted 7th overall in 2016, she spent years grinding for minutes, eventually emerging as the heart of the Sky. Her crowning moment came in 2021 when she was named WNBA Finals MVP after leading Chicago to its first-ever championship. Copper was known for her explosive drives, fearless competitiveness, and leadership in the locker room. For Sky fans, she wasn't just a star, she was the star. When Reese arrived in Chicago in 2024, it was framed as an exciting pairing, the outspoken rookie with a national following teaming up with the franchise cornerstone who had already delivered a title. But in the pressure cooker of a WNBA locker room, star power isn't always additive. Personalities clash, roles shift, expectations get messy. The first public hint of friction came in April 2025. It started with a tweet, or maybe with a feeling. Late one evening, Reese posted to X, "It's crazy how some people act like they don't know you now." No names, no tags, but the timing was suspect. The post landed just hours after a Sky practice that, according to multiple reporters, had been intense and not exactly friendly. The vague wording was enough to ignite speculation. In the modern WNBA media landscape, it didn't take much. Fans quickly zeroed in on one possible target: Kahleah Copper. Copper's response was just as cryptic and just as public. First came a laughing emoji with the caption, "Who me?" followed by another post. Grown women talk face to face. In isolation, it could have been playful banter, but with thousands of fans reading between the lines, the exchange began to take on a different tone. Local outlets ran headlines like "Locker Room Tension Brewing in Chicago." National commentators started debating whether this was harmless ribbing or something deeper. Twitter threads sprouted overnight. Some accused Reese of being too online and too dramatic for a rookie. Others defended her as someone unafraid to call things out. LSU faithful rallied to her side. Sky loyalists took Copper. Mercury fans, Copper's future supporters, chimed in with knowing jokes like, "Ka doesn't do drama, she ends it." What could have stayed an internal matter had now become a public spectacle. From that moment, Reese and Copper weren't just teammates. They were characters in a narrative being written in real time by fans, media, and every scrolling pair of eyes on social media. The spark had been struck, and in a league where every move is amplified, it wouldn't take long for it to catch fire. The tension didn't fizzle out after that first round of cryptic posts. If anything, it grew legs. A week later, during a preseason media availability, a reporter asked Reese directly if she was referring to anyone on the team. She smiled, the kind of smile that says, "I'm not going to give you what you want, but I want you to know I could," and replied, "I just speak my mind. If the shoe fits, it fits." The quote was clipped, posted, and replayed across social media within hours. Copper, for her part, seemed determined to play it cooler. She didn't directly reference Reese again, but her public comments about keeping the locker room about basketball and not needing outside noise were received by many as carefully aimed shots. On the court, subtle things began to stand out. In early May, during a home game against the Phoenix Mercury, cameras caught a brief exchange between the two. It wasn't heated, no shouting, no wild gestures, but the body language told its own story. Copper gestured toward the wing, clearly calling for Reese to space out. Reese shook her head and held her ground in the paint. The possession ended in a turnover. The Mercury bench noticed, so did the cameras. After the game, which the Sky lost in a close finish, Copper was asked about the miscommunication. She answered without hesitation, "We've got to be on the same page, that's all I'm gonna say." Reese was more guarded, offering only, "We're still learning each other." But behind the scenes, league insiders were saying the dynamic was tense. A veteran coach from another team told a Chicago reporter off the record, "It's oil and water right now, both super competitive, both used to being the one." Then came the moment that turned a simmering situation into a full-blown storyline. 2 weeks later, the Sky traveled to Phoenix for the rematch. This time, Copper, now playing for the Mercury after a midseason trade, came in hot. From the first quarter, she attacked the rim with a physicality that seemed almost personal. On one drive, she went straight at Reese, drawing contact and earning an and one. As she walked back to the line, Copper glanced over her shoulder with a smirk. Social media had a field day. Clips were slowed down, freeze-framed, captioned. The narrative practically wrote itself, the former teammate now using her new stage to make a statement. After the game, Copper was asked if the energy was different facing her old team. She grinned. "I play hard every night, but yeah, some games mean a little more." That one sentence was enough to light up basketball Twitter for days. Reese, meanwhile, posted a photo to Instagram the next morning, her in practice gear, sweat still on her face, with the caption, "Rent-free." It was like tossing another log on the fire. By now, this wasn't just about two players, it was about factions. WNBA fans, already some of the most engaged in sports, began taking sides in earnest. Sports talk shows debated who was in the right. Meme accounts churned out content daily. Some framed Reese as the fearless newcomer shaking up the hierarchy. Others painted Copper as the no-nonsense veteran who refused to be rattled. What made the feud so potent was its multi-layered nature. On one hand, you had legitimate basketball questions. Could the Sky's chemistry survive this? Would Reese's assertiveness translate into wins? On the other, you had the human drama, ego, pride, legacy, and the sometimes fragile balance of personalities in a professional locker room. And in the WNBA's 2025 season, the most visible, most covered, most socially connected in league history, there was no hiding from it. Every eye was on Chicago. Every microphone was waiting. Every post, every smirk, every on-court glance had the potential to fuel another news cycle. The spark had become a steady burn, and soon it would erupt into moments that would define the rest of their careers. The burn became a blaze in mid-June. The Sky were back home, hosting the New York Liberty in what was already billed as a high-profile matchup. But the real heat came not from New York's star power, but from the lingering sting of Copper's absence and the fact that her new Mercury team had just beaten Chicago twice in the span of 8 days. The Sky needed a statement game. Reese seemed determined to deliver it. From the opening tip, she attacked the boards with a vengeance, clapping in opponents' faces after putbacks, barking encouragement to her own bench. The crowd was feeding off her energy, and the cameras caught every grin, every flex. Midway through the second quarter, the broadcast cut to Copper watching from a Mercury practice facility, her workout paused, eyes on the screen. A fan had tagged her in a clip of Reese dominating the paint, captioned, "She learned that from you eyes." Copper reposted it within minutes, adding a single word. Now, the timing was lethal. By halftime, her repost was circulating everywhere. Comment sections swelled with speculation. Was she denying influence, dismissing Reese's performance, throwing shade for the sake of it? The Sky went on to win that night, but the headlines were about the Copper comment, not the box score. Sports radio in Chicago dedicated an entire morning segment to Who's the Real Alpha? Fans called in, some defending Reese's edge, others insisting she still had much to prove before stepping to a finals MVP. The next flashpoint came during All-Star Weekend. Both players were there, Copper for her veteran credentials, Reese in the midst of an impressive rookie campaign that had captured fan votes. In the pregame tunnel, cameras spotted the two walking in opposite directions. For a split second, their eyes met. Reese nodded. Copper didn't break stride. The clip went viral in under an hour. Meme accounts looped it with slow-mo zooms. One fan edited it into a Western showdown, complete with whistling theme music and tumbleweed animations. And then came the post-game interview. Asked about whether she and Copper had spoken, Reese replied, "I'm here to play basketball. Some people, they keep it business. Some people, they keep it personal." It was the perfect soundbite, vague enough to dodge fines, sharp enough to keep the feud alive. Copper didn't respond directly, but the Mercury's next home game featured her walking into the arena in a shirt that read, "It's always personal." The escalation had reached a point where even those outside the WNBA bubble were noticing. NBA players tweeted about it. Pop culture blogs covered it. Late-night hosts made jokes about WNBA subtweet championships. But under the humor was a real shift. This wasn't just about two players anymore. It was about the new WNBA economy of visibility. Rivalries weren't hidden behind locker room doors. They were content currency and in some ways marketing gold. Angel Reese and Kahleah Copper had become the center of a league-wide conversation about competitiveness, branding, and the blurred lines between genuine tension and performative rivalry. The fans weren't just watching games, they were following a storyline, one play, one post, one interview at a time. And in the high-visibility crucible of the 2025 season, there was no turning back. What happened next would test not only their individual legacies, but the Sky's ability to survive a season under the brightest, most unforgiving spotlight in franchise history. The breaking point didn't come in one dramatic explosion. It was more like a series of sharp cracks that together split the season wide open. By late July, the Sky's record was slipping. Close games kept going the wrong way and the chemistry on the floor looked brittle. Passes went astray, rotations broke down. There were moments where Reese and Copper's absence from each other's space on the bench during huddles, even in warm-ups, felt deliberate. The front office had decisions to make. Copper was already gone, thriving with the Mercury. Reese was locked in as the Sky's high-upside rookie. But the vacuum she left in the locker room, the loss of a Finals MVP presence, had altered the team's entire hierarchy. The trade that sent Copper to Phoenix was officially spun as strategic roster restructuring. Privately, league insiders said it was also about peace, a chance for both sides to move forward without the constant undercurrent of tension. But that peace didn't last long, at least not in the public eye. Every time the Sky lost, critics blamed the missing leadership. Every time the Mercury won, fans framed it as Copper showing Chicago what they gave up. When Reese had a big night, LSU supporters flooded timelines with claims she was proving Copper wrong. When she struggled, detractors called her overhyped and said she should stay off social media and in the gym. The two players didn't have to speak to keep the rivalry alive. The fans, media, and even other players did it for them. The most heated flashpoint in the fallout came in August, when the Sky traveled to Phoenix for their only road game against the Mercury that season. The arena was buzzing from the moment doors opened. Signs in the crowd read, "Team Copper. Bayou Barbie everyone. Rent still free." Warm-ups alone were tense. Copper and Reese crossed paths twice on the baseline, no smiles, no words. The game itself felt like a duel inside a team sport. Copper opened with a quick 8 points in the first quarter, each bucket greeted by the home crowd's roar. Reese answered in the second with back-to-back putbacks, holding her follow-through just a fraction longer than necessary, eyes locked in Copper's direction. By the fourth quarter, both were in double figures. The game was tied with 28 seconds left when Copper hit a mid-range jumper over Reese's outstretched arm. It wasn't the game winner, the Sky still had a possession, but the look on Copper's face as she jogged back told the story. The Mercury won by 4. Post-game, Copper spoke first. "It's always fun playing against people who compete, that's all I'll say." Reese in the visitors' locker room was more blunt. "I'm gonna remember that shot, trust me." The clip became the headline on every sports feed that night. The WNBA's official accounts posted the highlight with the caption, "Kahleah Copper seals it in Phoenix eyes," and fans read the emoji as a deliberate wink toward the rivalry. What no one could ignore anymore was how much attention this feud had brought the league. Ticket sales spiked when their teams were scheduled to play. Merchandise numbers climbed, Copper jerseys in Phoenix colors, Reese jerseys in sky blue. Social engagement hit records. The league didn't manufacture the tension, but they weren't running from it either. By September, it was clear that the Reese-Copper storyline had become part of the WNBA's cultural moment. ESPN ran a feature titled "When Rivalries Go Public: How Angel Reese and Kahleah Copper Changed the Game." Podcasts dissected every interaction. And fans began to wonder, would this rivalry burn out quickly or become the kind of long-running drama that defined an era? In truth, neither player needed the other to have a great career. But in the strange chemistry of sports storytelling, they had become linked, two competitors whose clash of styles, personalities, and timing turned a normal roster change into one of the most talked-about chapters in recent WNBA history. And as the season wound down, one thing was certain, their story wasn't over. By the final weeks of the 2025 season, the WNBA playoff picture was taking shape, and with it, the conversation shifted from regular season drama to championship stakes. The Chicago Sky fought hard but ultimately missed the postseason by narrow margin. Angel Reese's rookie campaign, while uneven, had been statistically impressive. Top 5 in offensive rebounds, double-digit scoring, and a noticeable uptick in defensive versatility. But for all her production, whispers about her off-court focus lingered. Some saw her as a breath of fresh air in a league that thrives on personality. Others saw her as a lightning rod. In Phoenix, Kahleah Copper thrived. The Mercury clinched a playoff spot, and Copper's veteran presence was credited as a stabilizing force for a roster in transition. Her ability to deliver in clutch moments, especially in high-pressure national TV games, only fueled her reputation as a closer. The league itself had been the biggest beneficiary of the rivalry. The Reese-Copper saga had transcended the usual WNBA coverage bubble, pulling in casual fans, NBA player commentary, and even late-night comedy. The feud had become a cultural shorthand for competitiveness in the age of social media, a reminder that personality and narrative could amplify the game's reach without overshadowing the quality of play. But what about the two players themselves? Publicly, they maintained a mutual distance. There were no reconciliations caught on camera, no warm post-game embraces. At the same time, neither had gone nuclear, no direct name-calling, no explosive interviews. It was the perfect equilibrium for a rivalry to persist, just enough tension to keep fans invested, just enough professionalism to keep the league's image intact. Privately, sources close to both suggested that respect existed beneath the frost. Each knew the other's game, understood the work it took to reach this level. But in the ultra-competitive, ego-driven ecosystem of professional sports, respect doesn't always translate to friendship. As 2026 loomed, both players faced different arcs, Reese with the challenge of building her franchise identity in Chicago, Copper with the chance to chase another title in Phoenix. Their teams would meet again, the cameras would still be rolling, the tweets would still fly. The story wasn't ending, it was simply moving to its next chapter.